Welcome to Mondays with Maxwell. My name is Mark Cole. I'm the president and CEO of the John Maxwell Leadership Enterprise. I believe every one of you watching this right now is just like John. You welcome Mondays because you look forward to starting your week off looking for ways to value people. And since today is Monday, my friends, let's hear from the man of the hour. He is our leader, our friend, John C. Maxwell.
Welcome to Monday with Maxwell. Hi, I'm John. I'm glad you're here. We're giving best advice. Today I'm going to introduce you to my wonderful friend Chris Hodges, who shared with me some best advice that I'm going to pass on to you. But before I do that, of course, we have Andrew's best advice. And Andrew is never happy about me giving anyone else's advice until I give his first, because he's so fun. And I love this one. Here's what Andrew says for you for this week, okay? Never put off until tomorrow what you can put off indefinitely. Hey, by the way, coaches, I've got many of the coaches in our room here right now on the John Maxwell team. I know a whole bunch of people that follow that advice, don't you? I mean, they're just sitting there and saying, oh my gosh, let's see if we can put it off one more time. Chris Hodges is one of my very closest best friends. He's the senior leader, pastor of the Church of the Highlands in Birmingham, Alabama. And the church just turned 20 a couple of months ago, this year. But what he has done in 20 years, I think, is unmatched by any pastor leader in America. Before COVID, they were averaging 60,000 people in attendance, had 120,000 on Christmas, on Easter. I mean, I know those are big days, but 120,000. I mean, think of the great football stadiums in the world. I mean, he has more at his church than could fit into the largest stadium. He's such not only a terrific pastor leader, but he's a terrific business person. I promise you, if Chris wasn't the senior pastor, lead pastor at Highlands, he could be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, no doubt about it. In fact, he started with nothing. They just went to plant their church in Birmingham, and 20 years later, he has $400 million, over $400 million in assets, in land and in buildings, and they're totally debt-free. Now, I mean, if you just do the math, 20 years, 400+ million in assets, I mean, that's like about $1.5 million every. I mean, that's huge. That's over $1.5 million increase every month. Every business person out there ought to say, I need to meet Chris Hodges. And he has a wonderful college that I'm very excited about, Highlands College, 1,100 students. And he is building and going to have an academy, a Christian academy that will be somewhat like West Point for people who want to do ministry. And he's building it right now. And I have a privilege of every once in a while just serving him and helping him a little bit. And I'm so excited to bring him to you. And I was talking to Chris the other day, and I said, Chris, what's the best advice you want me to pass on today on Money with Maxwell? And here's what he gave me. His father, this advice came from his dad. Here's what his dad taught him. Live by principle, not pressure. I said, wow, that's so good, Chris. Flesh that out for me. And so I'm going to give you some of the things that he gave me. I'm just passing on. I mean, it's Chris's best advice. It's to you. It's to me. I know I'm better because I'm receiving it. And so I said, flesh that out for me, Chris. And here's what he shared with me. It's easier to decide ahead of time instead of at the time. So when you settle your core principles ahead of time, you do what's right at that time. And I just thought how true this is. In other words, what Chris is very simply saying to you is, don't wait until you have to make a decision because sometimes you're under pressure to make it. Sometimes you have temptations that are not going to take you in the right way. He's saying, make all these important decisions, follow these principles, decide on them ahead of time. Live by principle, not by pressure. If you live by principle, when the pressure comes, you'll be able to handle the pressure. And then he gave me some examples. He said, let me give you some examples. He said, for example, hiring people. He said when we started building our organization, we set a ceiling on how much we would spend in salaries. And we won't go any higher than that. We're only going to spend this much in paying staff to help lead the church. And he said the result of that principle, set the ceiling, get that set up before you start. He said, because we had that principle in place, the result is, he said, we have created one of the healthiest volunteer cultures in the church world. And Chris, you have, my friend, my gosh. In fact, are you ready for this? Just fasten your seatbelt. I don't know what you're leading right now, but you're just going to recognize when I share with you this last stat that Chris Hodges is a great leader. He has 26,000 volunteers in his congregation. 26,000 people who are doing life and ministry and working and helping the dream to absolutely come true. I mean, he really does understand that teamwork makes the dream work, and he's done it with volunteers. Now, why does he have 26,000 volunteers? Because he had a principle to follow. The principle was only use a certain percentage of your income for salaries. And so instead of him just keep paying for the work to be done, that principle forced him and allowed him to go out and develop a major volunteer force. And then he said, let me give you another example of the principle that you put out on the front end so that you don't have the pressure on the back end. He said, my personal time, the use of my personal time. He said, there are certain times I never give away. I never give away my date night. I never give away my mornings. Chris and I have talked a lot about that. I don't give away my mornings either. So, I'm spending my time with God in the mornings. I'm spending my time in preparation in the morning. He said, I never give up my Sunday, my worship time. He said, there are certain things that I just don't give up. And then he gave me what was just huge. Okay, hang with me. Just you've got to get this. In fact, I'm going to make sure you get this, okay? Because this is why you join me on Money with Maxwell. He said, focus on choices, not conditions. Now that is a lesson in itself. Focus on choices, not conditions. And he went on to explain, most people let conditions determine what they do. The pressure causes them to change with the wind. In other words, they get in adverse conditions, and all of a sudden the winds really begin to take over. And he said that pressure causes them to change with the wind. And then he said they blame the conditions, the wind. And he said it needs not to be. And he closed with this. He said, John, you cannot control your circumstances, but you can control your choices. In other words, you can control the principles that guide your life. And that reminded me of a poem that my father taught me when I was growing up. Methods are many and principles are few. Methods always change. Principles, they never do. Well, Chris, when you shared this great advice with me that I'm now sharing with all of our friends, it really kind of stirred me up a little bit, because I remembered, I had to do a little research, but I remembered a long time ago. When I say a long time ago, I'm talking about in the early 1980s, so we're talking about 40 years ago. I remember that one of my first teachings when I started traveling and speaking was a teaching called Principles That Guide My Life. And when you gave me this principle advice, I asked Linda, asked Aaron, my team, I said, my research people, I said, can you find that teaching for me? I mean, it's been years. I've been probably honestly a couple of decades since I've ever even looked at that. And so they found it for me and they brought it to me. And I thought I'm going to share a little bit of this with you, okay? And here's the quote that I want to start with you, okay? And that is, the principles that you live by create the world that you live in. I'll repeat it. The principles that you live by create the world that you live in. And for me, when I look back and I saw this lecture on principles that guide my life, I thought, principles to me have been like anchors. They've held me steady when the storm was kind of tossing a little bit. They've been like friends. They've been alongside of me to give me security and assurance. They've been like the North Star. They've kind of been a guidance for me. But I thought it would be fun. So I'm going to give you a 40-year-old lecture, okay? So what am I? I'm 74. So when I was in my young 30s, I was running around the country teaching principles that guide my life. And I won't need to teach them long because these are just principles. And remember, it's the best advice from Chris, not me. But I thought, I want to do this for you, okay? So here were the principles that I shared that guide my life. Number one, my attitude determines my altitude. And as a young man, I realized that attitude's a choice. And I have loved and tried to live. My father modeled this for me, a good attitude. I mean, I wrote books like Failing Forward. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. The Difference Maker, Your Attitude, Key to Success. Okay, I've just always known that my attitude determines my altitude. How high can you go? Well, what kind of an attitude do you have? And it's a choice. So whatever attitude you have, whatever attitude I have today, can I tell you something? We chose it. So I never feel sorry for people who have a bad attitude. I want to walk in their life and say, look, you chose it. I didn't choose that for you. My attitude determines my altitude. Principle number two, there is not much difference between success and failure. Wow. As a very young leader, I realized that you shouldn't separate success and failure. That's a mistake, putting success over here, failure. No. Success and failure need to go hand in hand because they really serve one another. Failure causes me to appreciate the work that it takes to be successful. And so when I'm successful, I realize that I had to go uphill and I had to overcome adversity. And success helps me to understand that failure is not final. And I mean, they're so compatible. Never, ever, ever, ever separate them. In your life, you'll have successes, you'll have failures, you'll have mixtures, you'll have ins and outs, ups and downs. It's all part of it. Don't despise your failure and don't idolize your success. Don't go there. Don't go there. Just let them serve you together. The third principle that I taught 40 years ago was that personal growth precedes professional growth. One of the books I read was by James Allen, and that book changed my life, and he had a statement in it that says, you cannot travel without until you first travel within. And I have realized that my personal growth is going to determine my future more than anything else. I'm going to have to increase my growth capacity. I want to, instead of going to the next level, you want to grow to the next level. If you grow to the next level, when you get to the next level, you can handle it. If you just go to the next level, that doesn't mean you can handle it at all. Principle number 4, helping others succeed helps me succeed. That I learned that in my 20s from Zig Ziglar. When I heard him in Dayton, Ohio, and you know what he said. He said, if you'll help everyone else get what they want, they're going to help you get what you want. And the thing that was powerful about Zig's teaching was he said, you help them first. That's when I learned I was doing it wrong. I was saying, help me, and then maybe I'll help you. And all of a sudden I realized, oh, no. I'll help you. And I'll get the return. Number 5, live a life of integrity. Live a life that is open, that is honest, authentic, real. People don't want a perfect leader. They do want an authentic leader. Number 6, these are just principles. I taught these 40 years ago. My ability to get along with people is my most important ability. How true that is. You know, Stanford research says that success in business is 13% product knowledge and 87% people knowledge. Ooh. Did you get that? The most important ability that I can ever cultivate in my life is the ability to get along with people. Number 7, my dad taught this to me when I was growing up, pay now, play later. He taught me that you always are going to pay, son. Don't think you go through life without paying. The question is not, are you going to pay? The question is, are you going to pay on the front end or are you going to pay on the back end? And he taught me that if I paid on the front end, the play would be beautiful on the back end. But he also taught me that if I played on the front end, that pay kept compounding. And when I had to pay the price, it would be huge. Principle number 8, giving is the highest level of living. I believe that with all of my heart. I love to be generous. I love to add value to people. I love to share. I love Mondays with Maxwell because I'm just doing my best to pour into your life. You see, I think there are 2 measures of a great person. One is that they're giving, and secondly is they're forgiving. Boy, when you forgive people and can get over the stuff in your life, and when you are generous toward people, it's a beautiful way to live. Principle number 9, life is not a dress rehearsal. Live it fully. Enjoy it daily. You're not going to give another chance. When on my tombstone, when I die, I just want to just basically say, he finally ran out of breath. He just kept running, and he just finally, live for the moment, love the moment. And principle number 9 is success is having the love and the respect of those who are closest to you. When those who are closest to you love and respect you the most, you're the real deal. By the way, when those who are closest to you don't love and respect you the most, you got a problem. Well, those were the principles that guided my life. And when I was in my early 30s, I was running around the country teaching them. And Chris Hodges, you added incredible value to all of us by giving us the principle that your father gave you, and that is live by principle, not by pressure. We're better because of it, Chris. Well, we're just better because of you, who you are. Thanks, friend. And I'm glad you joined with me today on Monday with Maxwell, and I'm excited because now you're about to meet another one of my John Maxwell team coaches, and wait until you hear this person's testimony. I'm with Diana Cannoli from Orlando, Florida, and she is one of our John Maxwell team coaches, and we're very, very proud of her, and she's accomplished so much. So, Diana, thanks for joining us. I think you became a coach around 2015,
August
right?
2015.
Okay, August. So
correct.
You've been a coach quite a while. Let's go back before 2015. Tell me about yourself. What were you doing? Why did you become a John Maxwell coach?
So thank you for that amazing, reflective question, if you like. When I think about before I joined the team, I think of how I counted myself out and how I built the environment that was going to be for me counting myself out. And all of this was because I suffered with a severe speech difficulty. And so I built my life around my limitations.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you were basically kind of, honestly, Diana, sabotaging yourself.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
You didn't even hardly kind of get in the game because you put yourself out of the game. Now,
Yeah.
when you say you had a severe speech limitation, you're a very good speaker.
Why, thank you. I've had to practice how to speak, but joining the team enabled me to begin to be for myself.
Oh, I like this.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, and just the community, the environment has changed my world. And so I remember joining you on a trip to Paraguay,
Yes.
2016,
Oh, yes.
and then 2017,
Yes.
and 2019. And that was the moment that my whole world became a whole lot different than what I had ever thought about. And so much so that now I serve as a United Nations ambassador, and I get to lead leaders to master their leadership foundation, their leadership formation, their leadership effectiveness, so that they can take it and get their lives and those that they lead at a much better place.
Come on.
Yeah.
So, Diana, before you joined the team, you just didn't really have a lot of self-confidence.
No.
And you had some speaking challenges. And so you just basically kept putting yourself over on the shelf. And then you got into an environment and said, no, come on. And you got in an environment that encouraged you, lifted up, taught you. My gosh, we do a great job helping speakers learn how to speak.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, what Rodney does is just off the charts. And so I'm so proud of our faculty. And so then you went to Paraguay with us. And by the way, when she saw him going to Paraguay with us, we have the opportunity to go into different countries, invited by the presidents of those countries to do values transformation. And so when we were invited by the president of Paraguay, we took, I don't know, probably 250 of our John Maxwell team. They flew down to Paraguay with me, and they trained all the facilitators of small groups, probably like 15,000 trained. We were trained in about 4 or 5 days. And we just had a blast, didn't we? I mean, we worked hard and we helped people. And the reason I say that is when you become a John Maxwell team coach, we have all kind of exciting, life-changing opportunities for you that you probably would never have on your own. And you said, Diana, that was life-changing for you going to Paraguay.
That was when I began to really know what I am meant to do. And so when I think about it, is that we are doing things that are going to make this world so much better, you know?
We are.
Yes, we are.
And now you work with the United Nations. Look at you.
Do.
Come on. Come on,
you.
Diana Canole.
Yeah.
Look at how far you've gone. And as a founder of the John Maxwell team, let me just close by saying this. My greatest joy is seeing people like you reach your potential. And the stories that you hear and the people that you meet on Mondays with Maxwell are just people like you. And all of a sudden, they made a commitment. They became part of the team, and their life began to, in a positive way, beautifully change. That's what I want for you. I want more for you than I want from you. And that's the John Maxwell team. So again, call us, go online, join us. We want you to kind of start this journey with us, because we've got a whole bunch of more countries to go see and a whole bunch of more lives to change. Thanks so much.
I hope you've enjoyed today's Monday with Maxwell Lessons. What's some good advice or some unadvice you've received? Let us know in the comments. And what can we say about our John Maxwell team members? Every day, they look for ways to lead in and live out Maxwell leadership principles and philosophies. We're so grateful for the John Maxwell team. Each week, we'll feature a member or mentor from our team who will share their story and their journey with you. Why? Because we want you to see the real stories of difference makers, of value multipliers, and of possibilists. If you want to learn how you too can join John's team of difference makers, go to mondayswithmaxwell.com. Let me say that again. It's Mondays, plural, mondayswithmaxwell.com. Let us know how you saw Mondays with Maxwell and how you want to make a difference. Thank you again for watching today. We'll see you next week for another episode of Mondays with Maxwell.